Hey guys, Jim here, back with another e-bike video. Today taking a little more critical look at cheaper e-bikes and trying to understand some of the price differences and my experience with getting the Amazon or Best Buy or Walmart $400 or $500 e-bikes, and kind of analyzing those to look to see, do they make sense? And do you have to spend an arm and a leg to get a nice ride? And the answer is no. There's a lot of sponsored videos online that I see, and I do a lot of video reviews on e-bikes, and I'm constantly just trying to see what's out there, looking at subreddits and talking with all the people I meet out on the streets, and really starting to embrace the culture and kind of see what the pulse of the people is, because I want to understand it, right? I'm new to this hobby. I've fallen really in love with it. I go out for rides almost daily now. I'm getting further and further along, and just going farther and farther, and learning things, and that sort of, the whole reason I'm doing this series, right? And I can't help but notice that YouTube is dominated by sponsored videos of people doing, performance e-bike reviews, basically taking their scooters and downloading some goofy app and, getting their scooters run 100 miles an hour, and people doing burnouts and 0 to 60 and speed tests and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to say that there isn't a facet of the community that enjoys that, because there are enthusiasts and purists who like that, let's basically make a sidewalk rocket, for lack of a better word. But the overwhelming majority of people I meet, and again, this is coming from a 43-year-old guy, the overwhelming majority of people I meet are honestly not that obsessed with breakneck performance, and are just going to look out to get some fresh air and some light exercise, and to go see some of the parks and to see some of the more quiet parts of their respective communities. Which leads me back to, do you need to spend an arm and a leg on getting a heavy-duty performance e-bike? And the answer is no. Yes, more expensive e-bikes will absolutely run better. They will be lighter. The durability in the build will be better. They will use better materials. That doesn't mean that a cheaper e-bike won't get the job done. It just means it won't be as efficient. So when you look at a lot of these performance e-bikes, P51 or Ghost Cat, or some of the higher end hay bikes, or, there's so many brands, I could go on and on and on, right? Those are just the ones that pop into mind. Really, P51 and Ghost Cat, because those seem to be really geared towards kind of that high-end performance, like almost highway speeds, non-street legal, if you want to go down that road. But does it mean that a regular bike can't keep up with them? Well, yeah, in terms of just raw speed, a Walmart special probably is going to be a street legal bike that's going to cap out at 20 or 28 miles an hour, not to exceed a 750 watt motor, probably smaller tires, right? That's just kind of standard for that type of ride. And they are really a dime a dozen, because there's really not much trade space you have there when you're going to stick with metal framing and a 750 watt motor. There's really not a lot you can do. The design is going to be pretty standard. You may have a couple extra supports. Maybe they spend a little bit more money on performance shocks, or like a seat thumper shock, but for the most part, they're all the same. And then you have this high-end, really extreme bike, aluminum frames, performance brakes, specially tuned motor, onboard computer system that allows you to change throttle responses and that sort of thing. And then you got to look at that and go, well, okay, maybe, maybe we can't, maybe not everybody's going to have something like that, right? And you don't need that. And if you're not paying for that level of performance, and you're not going to use that level of performance, then you really kind of don't need to spend that kind of money. So I think this have and have not of this performance community has kind of, made it seem like if you're not on the high end extreme, then, maybe you shouldn't be e-biking, or you're you're doing it wrong. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case at all, at least in my experience. I will say that on my bikes, they do require a lot of maintenance. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they do use typically smaller tires. There's more metal on metal. There's not a lot of redundancy in terms of kind of how the weight is distributed. The frames are generally more basic, which does mean a harder bump that you're going to hit on a sidewalk will impact your ride more than other things. I like, for example, the little scooter that I'm zipping on right now in this video. I'm probably good for doing a light brake job to it, I'd say every 2 or 3 weeks. And when I say light, I'm not talking about completely removing the caliper. I'm talking about usually there's a warp or the brakes aren't rubbing the way they should, or they're rubbing too well and it's too aggressive. And I'm constantly having to do something to adjust it. And you could say that that's cheap machinery. You could say that that's, me kind of pushing the weight limit on a 250-pound bike. I mean, I am 180, but, I still feel like I'm big boned. I don't know, hitting these bumps. I mean, I'm driving down some sidewalks and some brick roads that aren't definitely meant for this. Not saying you can. I'm hitting speed bumps, not at a super high rate of speed, but I am hitting speed bumps. And I think all of that is kind of not the standard use case where you see these kind of sidewalk scooter, these mopeds that are basically more just kind of like street vehicles only, where you're basically on smooth paved roads. And you don't get that, at least where I'm at least in the parts of town that I'm driving through. There's a lot of old brick roads. There are a lot of speed tables. The sidewalk, especially with a lot of these old oak trees, is definitely lifted, and it's not as smooth as it should be. So you are getting a lot of that vibration and wear and tear that I think you don't normally get on a regular bicycle, which does impact it. Now, on comparison, my ZDZA, which is just a more traditional electric bike, not a scooter, has traditional pedals. It doesn't have fat tires, but it sits a lot higher. That bike, significantly less maintenance, but it was also double the price. So keep that in mind as well. That was about $800. But even then, it seems like Amazon has dropped the price, so I probably overpaid for it, but that's okay. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is just understand that, as with any hobby, you're going to find people out there who are basically trying to upsell you. They want you to click their affiliate link. They're going to sell you the best 5 accessories for e-bikes. All of them have sponsored links. All of them are repped by a brand. And I think that's unfortunate. And that's largely why I've been doing these videos, is just to show that there is another side of it. There is more of an entry level type. Doesn't mean I don't want to get a P51 at one day, for sure. But you don't need it to have fun and to get started. I think the cheaper bikes are actually really, really nice because it's going to teach you how to kind of take care of it. It's going to need probably more work than you may be accustomed to, but it's nothing that's outside of the realm of just spending an hour or two with some Allen wrenches and some calipers and just like dorking around with a bike out in the garage, like trying to learn and figure it out, and making some performance improvements on your own, adding some light accessories that customize your ride in a little bit better way. I think these are all great things that, you kind of miss out on maybe by jumping straight into it. I mean, let's face it, like, think of your first car in college, right? It was fine, wasn't it? It had a radio, it had air conditioning, maybe, and it was fine. It got you where you needed to be. And then maybe as you got older, your taste changed and you wanted leather interior and you wanted a sunroof, or you wanted panels or a Tesla or whatever. But it doesn't take away from the base functionality of just getting out there and seeing if it's for you. And I think that's what frustrates me, is all the targeted ads I see are just going straight for the performance stuff. And I think it does scare some people away from the hobby, because you think, oh, I have to just spend a ton of money. That's the only way I'm going to actually be able to enjoy it. And that is just simply not true. I would say, is with all e-bikes, with all performance, take your time to read the manual, watch the other video I did on some of the safety things, and be an intelligent writer. And I think you'll have a lot of fun by just going out and just kind of exploring your city or your local streets or whatever. I don't think you have to go over these crazy mountain ranges or these crazy off-hill treks that I see a lot of these advertisements do. You don't need to be a race car driver. You can cruise around at 10 or 15 miles an hour and have an absolute blast doing it, like I do pretty much every single day. So that's my definitive answer. I've said it probably 10 times, but I'll definitively say it here as I wrap up this video. You do not have to spend an arm and a leg on an e-bike to have a good time. I hope you found this video interesting and informative. I want to thank all of you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye.